Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Diamond Discussion. I am your host, Demetrius Woods, and today I'm going to give you my NCAA softball regionals reaction, and I'll also share with you my super regionals matchups along with those picks. So, without further ado, let's get it started. All right, guys, welcome once again to the show. Before we jump right into these regionals, I just got to let you know, for those of you who don't follow us on social media, all right, this show is dropping Tuesday, May 21st today, and then we've got May 28th and the Tuesday after that as well. And then also we're going to drop one final show of season 3. A great friend of mine, Taylor Fernandez O'Brien. We're going to be out in Oklahoma City tuning in live to the Women's College World Series. So that show will drop either on June 7th or the 8th, depending on when that last championship series game is, whether it goes to game 2 only or to the rubber match of game 3. So excited about the rest of season 3 coming at you, all things NCAA softball, because what a time to be alive. What an exciting year it's been. And the regionals are over, y'all. Believe it or not, okay? 64 teams jumped into this regional a week ago, and now we are down to 16. So congrats to the Sweet 16ers out there. I know this is not where they want the buck to stop, so I'm going to jump into these regionals real quick, talk through all 16 of these things, and then we're going to take a quick break after that, jump into the super regionals, and see what we got going on with those matchups. But the first one is that Austin regional out in Texas. I think this one went according to plan. Every game kind of went as we expected to go. Okay, so Texas virtually dominated that regional. They had 2 shutouts in that one, and they also had a 14-run game again. I think they beat Northwestern like 14-2 in that final game. So that wasn't much of a drama-filled situation as we had as we get in some of these later regionals. But Texas dominated. They flexed on them, and they were ready to head on to supers. Honestly, they took care of business. The second regional was that Norman regional out in good old Oklahoma, Boomer Sooner land out there. That one was another one kind of as expected. Everything kind of went according to its plan. Patty Gasso, I felt like her game plan was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let the big guns be the big guns. And I didn't feel like anybody had much of a test for them, minus Oregon. Oregon in that last, I think, because Oklahoma beat Oregon by, I believe, 2, maybe 3 runs in the second round of that one. But that final game, though, game 6 of that regional, Oklahoma escaped Oregon by only a run, 3-2. Kelly Maxwell, former Oklahoma State pitcher, came in the last 2 innings. She came in relief for Nicole May, and she only allowed a single base runner in innings 6 and 7 to close that out against Oregon. So that could have gotten a little interesting there had Oregon maybe pushed and maybe tied that game, sent it to extras or something like that. You never know what could happen, because I think Oregon may have been the home team in that setting, right? Because it was the first of a potential 2, and Oklahoma would have been the home team in the if necessary game. So anyway, all that to be said, a lot of what ifs out of there, obviously. But again, Norman Regional belonged to Oklahoma. They were just fine. The third one was the Knoxville Regional. This was intriguing for me, and only because, not because it was drama filled, because it was actually very much the opposite of it. Every game, though, all 6 games were a shutout, which is kind of wild. I don't know how often that happens in regional tournaments, but every single game went according to plan, I think. I know that I kind of picked a little bit of an upset, Miami of Ohio to beat Virginia, but that didn't happen. Virginia got to the final game against Tennessee, but even that one, that closed out in an upset fashion, I think 6-0. It was a very convincing win on the part of Tennessee. As I mentioned before, man, Carlin Pickens and Peyton Gottschall, they are a phenomenal duo of a pitching staff in Knoxville, and I think that their super regionals matchup is going to be a doozy, no doubt about it. So we're going to come back to that one on the back end of the show. The fourth regional here, before we take a very quick break, is the Gainesville regional. This one also went according to plan. Here's the thing: the top four seeds flexed on them, right? Texas, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Florida. They all did exactly what they were supposed to do. Florida outscored their opponents 24-2 in this regional. Bottom line is they raked that young pitching core that they have in Gainesville. They flexed on them as well, and allowing 2 runs in 21 innings is quite impressive, on top of scoring more runs than innings that you played. So again, Florida did some damage down there by holding serve and keeping everybody at bay. I did find it impressive for the South Alabama team, though. Okay, as I said before on last week's show, those Sun Belt Conference teams that were in this tournament. So South Alabama, you had of course Louisiana Lafayette, which we'll get to them in a second. They actually hosted a regional, and then you also had Texas State, who was out in the College Station regional. So again, those Sun Belt teams, man, they are impressive each and every year. They always put up a great fight, and I feel like they're always kind of just one inning or two away from making enough noise to make another push from there. Because if you remember, Louisiana Lafayette, they not only did they get to a regional, they didn't host last year, but they went to LSU's regional, which is an in-state rivalry. They ended up beating LSU 2 of those games in the final there to make their way up to Washington before eventually being swept by Washington. But for those Sun Belt teams, man, they're starting to creep in there a little bit more often, and I think that conference specifically is doing a great job of recruiting and competing with a lot of these Power 5 programs out there. So shout out to the Sun Belt Conference. Used to be a part of Sun Belt Conference, being a Georgia State alum. So definitely a lot of respect and love for the Sun Belt. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and during this break, I am going to share with you guys a drawing that we were supposed to do last week. I kind of forgot, to be honest with you, but I'm going to show you guys the winner of the drawing, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, thanks for pausing with us. I'm going to share with you the drawing winner. I was actually supposed to do this a week ago, and not only did I forget to do it a week ago, okay, I then forgot to press record. As the bowl is literally offset. I literally drew it out. I had this whole shebang, and I spilled my heart out to the winner of the freaking drawing, and then I didn't even press record. So now I'm just gonna give you my raw information, and the winner of the drawing. If you guys remember, I had you had to like, comment, and I think share the post on Instagram, just providing a little bit more publicity for the show, and so this lucky winner right here. She is, I like to think she's a big fan of the show. She's also been on the show and always given us love and mad respect, mad love for her. And none other than the GOAT, the great, dear friend of mine, Kyra Dobler. Congratulations to you. $100 giveaway to Kyra. And I will get that to you this weekend, I promise. So exciting news on that front. I'm going to let you guys get right back to the show. Again, congrats to Kyra Dobler. Hopefully we'll get some more giveaways out throughout the summer, specifically in the next couple of weeks as we go through this NCAA softball tournament. So again, shout out to Kyra for being our winner of the drawing rather. And let's get you back to the show. Okay, guys, welcome back. All right, so we had the Stillwater Regional out at Oklahoma State's home field. The Cowgirls. You remember, I picked Oklahoma State and Michigan to be in the finals of that regional. That's exactly what happened. Primarily because I didn't trust Kentucky's consistency, and it's I very rarely pick against an SEC program, but they just seemed inconsistent all season. And but here's the thing: they impressed me out of the gates. Kentucky did, because they overcame Michigan, I think by maybe a run, I believe. Maybe by a run or so in that first game, and then it ended up being Kentucky and Michigan there in the end, right before the finals, and Michigan got a hold of them there. I think they won like 4-2, and so of course it ends up being Oklahoma State and Michigan. And honestly, I didn't feel like Michigan put up much of a fight at all. I know it was a 3-run game, that I think Oklahoma State won like 4-1, something like that, maybe 3-1, 4-1, somewhere in there. But it felt like 6-1, 7-1, because I'll tell you, man, Lexi Kilfoyle, she is currently an NCAA Player of the Year finalist, along with Nigel Kennedy from Stanford, and gosh, the young lady, she's got like 88 RBIs. I'm blanking on her name. The catcher from Texas, though. So they're the three finalists for college collegiate player of the year. And I think Lexi Kilfoy's got a great case. I mean, she has stepped up tremendously this season for Oklahoma State in the circle. She has an ERA just above 1. And man, she has been absolutely mowing down and been a huge part of the success for Oklahoma State, and a big reason why they're ranked number 5 in the country, and also a big reason why they took care of business in this regional against Michigan and Kentucky. So shout out to Oklahoma State getting through the Stillwater Regional as I expected. The number 6 team in the country, UCLA, hosting the LA Regional. I'm going to pause on UCLA real quick. Let's get to the big shocker in that regional. If you guys got a chance to watch any of those games. All right, Grand Canyon University, man, shout out to them. They shocked me. I feel like they shocked the softball world. Maybe they didn't shock themselves, because I'm sure they had belief and faith that they could get it done. But they come out immediately and take on San Diego State. They beat them in a 9-7 shootout. All right, I know they got beat. Well, immediately they got beat actually by UCLA, but after that, they beat San Diego State in a 9-7 shootout right there, and then they turned right around and beat Virginia Tech to get to the finals against UCLA. And in that San Diego State game, I think 5 different players had RBIs. Right, so they were spreading the love out. Multiple players were getting it done in that game, and again, they took down Virginia Tech to move on to the finals. UCLA at that point, they were like, "Hey, listen, we don't really have time for this. Like, we're gonna go ahead and take care of business." And I think they won like 9-0 or something big like that. So on the UCLA front, though, okay, I felt like they looked a little like they. Here's the thing: late in the season this year, they turned on the Jets, as I think I mentioned last week. Okay, but early on, especially in February, early March, they looked very gettable. Like they didn't look like the team that they are now, right? And it almost felt like against Virginia Tech in that second round game, they looked like that. They looked a little dicey there. I didn't feel like they didn't come out the way they needed to, and I think that ended up being like a 7-6 ball game. So again, that got a little scary there in the second round for UCLA against Virginia Tech. But again, after getting an opportunity to face Grand Canyon for the second time in that final round, I didn't think Grand Canyon had enough, and obviously they did not to get past UCLA. But still, man, Grand Canyon, great fight, great job, ladies, and shout out to that program out there, because I don't think this is the last that you're going to see of Grand Canyon. I think they've got a great group, a great core coming back, and they're going to be a problem in the future, much like that Liberty Flames team that I'm going to talk about here in the next segment. So let's keep it moving, though. Number 17, Mizzou. Ooh, boy. Okay, my pen. I just threw my pen out here. They were on upset alert all daggum weekend. Okay, all weekend. I don't know what was going on. First of all, though, let's talk about Washington. They barely squeaked by Indiana by a run in the first round. And then Omaha. Shout out to the ladies of Omaha, Nebraska, man. They upset Mizzou day one. Mind you, we are in Columbia right here. All right, we are in the state of Missouri. Mizzou's at home. They're feeling good. I told you before, I feel like Mizzou is one of those teams that can win any way, anyhow. You back them into any kind of corner, they're going to find a way to get it done. And it almost felt like Omaha became Mizzou against Mizzou. So Omaha, Mizzou, and got that win in the first round out of the gates, which was wild to me. And then what do they go and do, right? It's Omaha versus Washington in the winners bracket in round 2, and Omaha beats them. I'm like, what is going on here? So Omaha beats Mizzou and Washington, the two teams that I had going to the regional final. I didn't feel like that was a far-fetched pick, but Omaha was like, not so fast, my guy. Like, we are here. We are here to make some noise, and we're not just here for a participation trophy. Like, we want to compete. And dang it, they didn't do that, man. The first 2 days, they came out right away and really made some noise. So shout out to Omaha, man. And then Mizzou, of course, at that point, they had to go run the table to make something happen, right? After dropping that first game against Omaha on day one. So at this point, Mizzou had to go out and win 4 straight games at their place over the course of 2 days, right? What a tall task, but they got it done, right? They got it done. They went out, they beat Indiana in the first loser bracket game. They then turned around and beat Washington, which was not an easy task, obviously, by any means. And then on Sunday, they had to show up at their own house and beat Omaha twice. And in that first game, they flexed hard. They got the job done 5-1 against Omaha. But that game too was left up for grabs. Guys, if you didn't see it, please go back and watch the highlights. I mean, it was a heck of a pitcher's duel. Defense was on point from both teams, and Mizzou ends up walking it off in 9 innings, right, 1-0. But man, what a battle, y'all! What a battle! That could have gone both ways. An error here or a mishap here or whatever. Like, Omaha could have got it done. And I'm gonna be honest with you, because I know, like I told you guys before, I got the SEC bias all over me, right? But I was rooting for Omaha mainly because they were the underdog in the regional, and I just felt like those ladies, man, they put it together. Really, they put it together. And that pitching staff, I don't even know the young lady's name, forgive me, but she had a heck of an outing, and I can't rave enough about this Omaha team because I know that I hope that they know what they just pulled off. I know it wasn't the result that they wanted, but they pushed Mizzou to the brink, and Mizzou's a team that has Women's College World Series aspirations this year and could dang well pull it off. So again, shout out to Omaha. And of course, shout out to Mizzou, man. Again, they are 100% battle tested at this point. And so, if I am, and we're actually going to talk about the Super Regionals matchup. That's going to be an interesting one as well. But I mean, if you're Mizzou, you got to feel good about where you are. I mean, I wouldn't feel like, oh man, like we almost gave one away. No, I'm thinking, no, we just had to run the table after losing a first round matchup to Omaha, a game that technically we weren't supposed to lose, right? In quotes there. But like, we had to go run the table, win 4 straight games over the course of 2 days, and we got it done. So they got to feel good about that from that perspective, and they've got the week to now prepare, obviously, for that Super Regionals matchup against the Duke Blue Devils. So again, we're gonna get to that one in a bit. All right, number 8, Stanford Regional. Before we take another quick break here, there was a lot going on in this regional, honestly, and this was one that I was watching very, very closely for a number of reasons. Number one, I felt like it was going to be a competitive regional, and number two, my LSU Tigers, should they get through the Baton Rouge regional, they were going to be facing the winner of this one. So again, Stanford Regional, we got 2 Mississippi State, Cal State Fullerton matchups, and I was really excited about that. If you listened to last week's show, these 2 teams faced off earlier in the year, I think in February, I believe, and it was a very narrow victory for Mississippi State, right? And so that first matchup that we got in the first round, Mississippi State won 1-0. Cal State Fullerton 1-0. I mean, that was a great game right there. And then Stanford in round number 2, they narrowly escaped Mississippi State, which I thought was very intriguing. Okay, because I said before, Mississippi State is one of those teams that they can scratch and claw and they can figure some things out. And if you let them hang around long enough, they're definitely ones to bite you. And I felt like they had Stanford a little nervous there, no doubt. Okay, but Stanford got by, so that means we got another Cal State Fullerton Mississippi State matchup. This is a third time now that they've played this season, and now the second time in 2 days. And so you just felt like, and I felt like going into that game, I'm like, man, I think Cal State might get them because when you play the same team twice in 2 days, there's a certain level of familiarity, obviously, that's there. Obviously, they'd played each other early in the year, so those scouting reports also came into play. And honestly, Cal State Fullerton, man, they came out and dominated. They really did. They came out and dominated that game 7-0, and they put themselves in position to go on and beat Stanford. And guess what happened? Right? They got to beat Stanford 2 times. First game, they come out and absolutely demolished Stanford. I believe I don't have the score, but now I think it was 8-1. But they demolished Stanford by a large margin in that first game. Now, Kennedy did not pitch that first game right there, but again, Stanford, the rest of Stanford's pitching staff is still formidable, right? But Kennedy comes out game two. She figures things out. I think she started out with it was crazy, man. I love her energy. I love her vibe. Everything she brings to the game is so beautiful to watch because she comes out. She has a 7 pitch at bat against Cal State Fullerton's leadoff hitter, and she ends up getting the strikeout on an outside pitch, right? She's stomping, yelling, screaming, just all animated, like she just punched their ticket in the first inning, right? But I love that energy, man. I love the vibe. The catcher had a great fist pump. Just she was yelling like they were ready, right? They understood the moment. They were excited from Jump Street, and eventually they went on to take care of business in that game to advance to the Super Regionals, which they will be hosting as I mentioned before, my LSU Tigers, who we were going to talk about here in just a bit, right after the break. So let me get just a second. I'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back to talk about that LSU Baton Rouge Regional and a few more in 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, welcome back to the show once again. As I mentioned before the break, I'm jumping right in here to the number 9 seeded LSU hosting the Baton Rouge Regional. I swear, y'all, I wish I could have gone out to see them play. However, I got an opportunity to coach my softball team. Quick plug for the Elite Diamonds. If you watch the show or listen to the show, or what have you, I know you've heard me talk about my Elite Diamond softball players a ton. Man, just so proud of them. So proud of them. I don't know if I mentioned this on the last show or not, but my girl Mackenzie Burnett, she just signed and committed to Bernal University, a Division III program up in North Georgia. So excited for her. Another one, Asia Wooten, committed and signed with one of my favorite college coaches, Madison Heron. He coaches at Bruton Parker College down in Mount Vernon, Georgia. So just great things happening with the program. We got tryouts coming up in June, at the end of June, 23rd and 24th, and then July 7th and 8th. We're based out of Eatonton, Lake Oconee, Georgia. So a lot of our girls come from within 2 hours of here. So if you know somebody, or if you are somebody who's looking for a travel softball team, there's my little plug for my team. Anyway, my point is, though, I got an opportunity to coach them this weekend. We went 4-1. Went up losing our first bracket game to kind of get kicked out of the tournament before the lights came on that night. However, man, we have won 14 of our 16 games over the course of the last few tournaments. And as I told my players at the end of the post game of the last tournament, like, I know the way we play doesn't always show up on the scoreboard or like win-loss column, but I'll just be honest with you, we've been playing some dang good ball, and our pitching staff phenomenal. Our bats are starting to come around a little bit more often, and we're scoring in bunches now. So that is a great sign of success for our team. So anyway, that's my plug for my team. I'm excited for my girls. I love them to death, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. We got 4 tournaments left, including a big World Series in July of our own, and then we'll send our seniors off. And I'm not going to talk about that anymore. So anyway, all right. So LSU Baton Rouge Regional. Let's start with Southern Illinois. Okay, they beat Cal twice, 5-4 and 3-2. I told you guys last week. I'm like, this is definitely hands down, no problem, no big deal. It's going to be an LSU versus Cal Bears finals in this regional. Cal is batting over 300 has been batting over 300 all year. LSU has the pitching staff to hopefully be able to stifle that. Yada yada yada. And then LSU and Cal didn't even get to see each other, like except for just crossing paths, right? Because Southern Illinois was like, "Hey, we are here. Hello, we got something for the Cal Bears," and they beat them twice. They beat them twice. So I'm like, yo, what in the world is happening right now? Shout out to Jackson State. Again, they were outmatched in this regional. I will admit that. Okay, having to face LSU and then, no disrespect to Southern Illinois because obviously they beat Cal, but I expected them to be facing Southern Illinois, which I think would have been a more favorable matchup for Jackson State. But Southern Illinois was like, hey, Cal, you guys can go to the loser bracket and face Jackson State. And Cal ends up, beating Jackson State like maybe 15-0 or something like that. But anyway, my point is, Southern Illinois, man, they shocked the heck out of me. I was impressed by them. So kudos to that program and what they got going on up in Illinois. However, LSU, man, my girls, they were just better, simply better than Southern Illinois and Jackson State. They were phenomenal. They allowed one run all weekend, and honestly, they basically had a home run derby in the final round game against Southern Illinois. Started with my girl Taylor Pleasance, and then Macy Bajeron got one. I don't know if this was before or after Carly Petty's, but either way, Macy Bajeron and Carly Petty got him a bomb. Carly Petty freaking put a hole in the scoreboard, basically. I mean, she absolutely murdered that one. I mean, the thing was halfway up the scoreboard, or at least a third of the way of the scoreboard. I think that would have gone 230 plus if the scoreboard wasn't there. What else we got, man? Kelly Lynch, y'all. Woo, Kelly Lynch from Newton, Georgia, which is about an hour 30 minutes from Eatonton, Georgia, which is where I'm located. Kelly Lynch, man, she's from there, born and raised in that area, and as most of you know, she spent the first 4 seasons out and in Washington, had an amazing career there. And then as a grad student here at LSU, like, I've loved having her on the pitching staff. She allowed 2 base runners, guys, in that final game against Southern Illinois. So she allows only 2 base runners. Taylor Pleasance, Macy Bajeron, Carly Petty all go deep in that game, and it was a barrage of Tigers touching home plate. I loved it as a fan. I soaked it in, and I'm ready for our girls to take on Stanford in that regional. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but we'll get to that in a second. So exciting times out in Baton Rouge. Final game there for those seniors, and couldn't be more proud of that group. All right, so number 10 ranked team in the country, Duke Blue Devils hosting the Durham Regional. I said this last week. I felt like if I'm them, I'd have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because of where they were ranked. I felt like they deserved a super regionals hosting scenario, which would mean they would need to be a top 8 seed, but they were just on the outskirts of that, just beyond LSU as well in the 10 seed. But here's the thing: just like Florida, they scored exactly like Florida. Actually, they outscored their opponents 24-2 in this regional. I don't think that there was much of a fight really put up. I was impressed though with South Carolina. They beat Utah twice in this regional. And I was impressed mainly because I wasn't sure what South Carolina was going to be able to put out against Utah. I felt like the pedigree of Utah in them making an unranked run to the Women's College World Series last year, I felt like they were going to be able to play off that mojo a little bit this season and at least find themselves in the regional final against Duke. But South Carolina shut that door immediately, and they said no. So anyway, shout out to South Carolina. So that became kind of a fun Battle of the Carolinas, regional final there between Duke and South Carolina. But Duke was like, hey, enough is enough. Like, we're out of here, guys. We got bigger fish to fry. But again, Duke, I think they're going to make some noise, and you're going to understand why I feel that way here in a little bit when I talk about the Super Regionals picks. So let's talk about the number 11 ranked team in the country, the Georgia Bulldogs. Athens Regional, 40 to 45 minutes from here, from my home. And I'll just tell you, I told you last week, I put Georgia on upset alert. It was kind of my big, hairy, audacious pick because I felt like the Liberty Flames could take down the Georgia Bulldogs. And if I didn't see Liberty in person against my Tigers of LSU a couple of weeks prior, then I don't know that I would have made this pick. But me seeing Liberty in person, I was like, yo, they're kind of good. Like they could do some damage. So that's why I felt that way. And dang it if it didn't dang near come true, because in this regional, I felt the earth shake here in Georgia because Liberty beats Georgia 7-3, right? In the second round. Okay, so I'm like, okay, here we go, right? Here we go. Here comes Liberty, because Liberty beating Charlotte and Georgia beating, I think, UNCW, I think is who they had. And so again, there was that. So now Georgia is forced to face Liberty and have to beat them twice in the finals. Okay, so Georgia, no problem in game one. They take care of business. I think they put up double digits in that game, if I'm not mistaken. No problem there. Game two, though, in the finals was a problem because it felt like it was teetering on upset as I'd anticipated. And dang it, if Georgia was like, hey, listen, we're trying to do some bigger things here. Let's not mess around any longer. And they end up walking it off in that game right there. So again, here's the thing though. Not that it was a fluke by any means. They walked it off because they've got great athletes and they're clutch players and they had the timing and they got all the things done right there. But I will tell you, man, about the Liberty Flames, Coach Dot Richardson, mad respect for her. Her fingerprint is all over that program, and she's a legend for a reason. And she's got Liberty in a great place. That program, it's becoming a place that I think a lot of these Power Five programs are starting to respect even more so year after year, partly because of her presence and the what she's been able to establish within that locker room there at Liberty. So shout out to Liberty. I'll eat crow with my local Georgia fans. No problem on that front because again, I felt like Liberty had them and they pushed them to the absolute brink to the point to where they had to walk it off against them. So I didn't feel like that was a far fetched situation. But again, shout out to Georgia and moving on to the Super Regionals. Before we take a break here, we're going to talk about that Fayetteville Regional, man. What the heck happened to Arkansas, right? They had that first victory against Southeast Missouri State. I'm like, all right, cool. They're on their way. Good deal. No big deal. And they daggum faced Villanova and Arizona. And I think they scored a combined 3 runs over the course of those 2 games. I don't know what happened right there, man. I just feel like their offense just went up in flames and it was just tough. It made it tougher on their defense. And I think their defense ended up giving quite a few runs in both of those games. So that regional really shocked me. It really did. Shout out to Villanova as well. I hadn't seen not one game of theirs actually before last week's show. I hadn't seen anything. I watched a full game of theirs and then some other highlights and clips, just kind of get a vibe of an idea of what they brought to the table. And they've got some good ball players on that team, no doubt. But here's the thing, man. I felt like once Arizona Villanova faced off in that final round, I gave the edge immediately to Arizona. I feel like the pedigree is 100% respectable. They've been here before, not these exact players necessarily, but the program has, and it almost just felt like Arizona was going to take care of it, and they did. So shout out to Arizona, man, coming out of the Fayetteville Regional. Um, who knows what could happen with them now? You know what I'm saying? I feel like they could certainly make a run into the Women's College World Series as a non-nationally ranked team and figure some things out. Are they ranked? No, I don't think they're ranked at all, are they? They might be. I don't know. Either way, they weren't top 16. So, but anyway, shout out to Arizona, guys. We're going to jump into this Lafayette Regional right after the break. Talk about how crazy that one was all over the place. And then we'll jump into the last 3 regionals from there as well. So I'll take a quick break and I'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Hopefully, you've been enjoying me ramble on about these different regionals. We got the last four, 13 through 16. Starting with number 13, man, another regional host goes down in Louisiana Lafayette. I was a little bit sad for them, honestly, because as I said before, and I've said this multiple times actually on the show, I don't like when my LSU Tigers have to face Louisiana in the postseason, mainly because of the in-state rivalry vibe, and I just have a lot of respect for the program. And they're one of those other Sun Belt teams, man, that are just gritty and they get things done, and they get things done in big moments. But man, this regional was wild, like wild. This was the one regional I said last week that I believe all four teams could win it. And I believe that in my heart of hearts. Like I felt like everybody had a 25% chance to win the regional. And if you look at the way they beat up each other, that kind of proved to be true, right? Because you had Baylor beat Ole Miss and Louisiana. Princeton got Ole Miss, right? Louisiana beat Princeton by only one run, which is crazy. And then they blew out Baylor by 13 in that first finals matchup of the regional, right? And then at that point, Baylor beat Louisiana by only one run, okay, in that second finals game to get it done in the end. So that was a crazy regional. Like a lot happened for Baylor, Princeton, and Louisiana to all get wins, and then for Ole Miss not to win at all. Like that shocked me. All of it shocked me. The whole regional shocked me, right? But Baylor, man, shout out to those ladies out there in Texas getting it done, right? I think the state of Texas has the most teams in the supers at this point, right? Is that right? Yeah, they got three. Yeah. Anyway, so all that to say, shout out to Baylor and Princeton too. Like I didn't see Princeton winning a game in this regional. I didn't. I honestly I didn't. So Tigers, forgive me, prove me wrong. So that was excellent. And then for Ole Miss, I know that they went 0-2, but they'll be back. They will be back. I know they kind of barely squeaked in as one of the later SEC SEC teams to get into the tournament, but I think Ole Miss will be back. Jaleel Lassiter, man, excited to have her on the show here pretty soon, leading that charge in Ole Miss, and they'll be back. Don't you worry. Number 14 seed, Alabama Crimson Tide, down in the Tuscaloosa regional, man. So as I predicted, Southeastern Louisiana came to play. They beat Clemson not once but twice. All right, in this regional, and I was thoroughly impressed with what they did. Okay, not only did they beat Clemson twice, but they forced extra innings against Bama in that second round, right? So again, because that could have easily gone Southeastern Louisiana's way, and now Bama's virtually in the same boat that we talked about Georgia being in versus Liberty, or Mizzou versus Omaha having to come into Sunday and win two games, right? But Bama figured it out. They won in extra innings in that game, and they kept themselves in the catbird seat to put Southeastern Louisiana's position to have to win twice. And at that point, Bama was like, all right, we got it. That they took care of business in the end to get it done. I think they even put up like a 12 spot in that final game. So, but shout out to Southeastern Louisiana, man. They look good. They look good. But Bama's rolling right now. So the Tide is rolling. Let's see if they can keep it going. All right, number 15. All right, we had the Tallahassee Regional down at Florida State. I will say, man, this was tough to watch from Jump Street, first round. So my wife is a very big Auburn Tigers fan. My father-in-law went to Auburn, so that's kind of where that derived from. And man, Auburn was up 6-2, I believe, midway of this game against UCF, and then UCF just scored like 7 unanswered runs for no reason at all. I was distraught, man, for Auburn. I wanted to see them pull off that first round win against UCF because I felt like UCF was the better team, genuinely. But I also think that Auburn is a team that they were kind of just built to fight and scratch and claw a little bit, and I thought they were doing that. I really did. I thought they were doing a very good job, like kind of like Mississippi State, really. but they just didn't get it done that first round, which kind of put them behind the eight ball a little bit. But Florida State, though, in that first round, narrowly beat Chattanooga 3-2. So that was so first rounds were exciting, right, for different reasons. And then Auburn, to get to the final, they had to face UCF. All right, and they didn't just face them, but they figured it out in 12 innings, and they figured it out in 12 innings behind that arm. My gosh, that arm of Maddie Penta, y'all. If y'all haven't seen Maddie Penta throw for Auburn in the circle, like, she is dynamite, man. She is really good. I thought she threw an amazing game for Auburn, and and got that done to get them to the finals. Now here's the thing: finals Sunday, it just felt like Florida State woke up. They were like, listen, we smell blood immediately, and they jumped all over Auburn. They were scoring in bunches and across multiple innings. So, Auburn fought back. I think Auburn put up 6 runs a total in that game, but there's too little too late on that front. Florida State, like I said, they came ready to play, and they didn't hold any punches in the end. All right, so this last regional that we had was the Bryan College Station Regional out at Texas A&M. I was so pumped because Texas State beat Penn State out of the gates, which I would not because I don't like Penn State. I was just pumped because I wanted to see an early matchup with Texas State and Texas A&M because, again, as I mentioned, these two teams played before earlier in the year, and it was a tight game, right? It was a tight. I think Texas State won. Yes, Texas State got the win. So it was a tight game, and so was this one. A&M won 1-0. All right, and I think that was a. Let me see. I think there was an early score in the second inning. It was, yeah, it was an early score in the second inning. It became a pitcher's duel at that point. So again, that was a great matchup that we got to witness. I loved watching those two teams compete, and then Texas State works themselves through the losers bracket at that point, and to get to that finals game. But in the end, A&M kind of they flexed behind that arm of Emily Kennedy, man. Emily Kennedy, she threw a heck of a game. She pitched an 8-0 shutout, and they went ahead and turned the lights off on Texas State. But A&M, they're solid. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with, I think, in the Super Regionals, no doubt. And we'll see kind of where they land. I'm going to give you guys my picks, actually, right after this commercial break. So, again, guys, Super Regionals matchups coming up for you. I'm going to breeze through those real quick, and I'll end the show, as we always do, with a Thought You Should Know moment. So I'll be right back. Hey guys, welcome one last time to the show. I'm going to give you these Super Regionals matchups and picks real quick, breezing right through them, and we're going to get you out of here. So the first matchup we have in Austin, Texas. The University of Texas will be hosting Texas A&M. All right, so we have a nice little matchup here, in-state action. All right, here's the thing. Although Texas is the number 1 seed, I got them winning in 3. I don't think they sweep A&M. I think A&M gets one game behind the arm of Emily Kennedy, as I just mentioned before the break, and I feel like Texas figures it out, and gets it done in the other 2 games, virtually in that rubber match of the series. So Texas advancing to the Women's College World Series with a win over A&M in 3. All right. Second one, out in Norman, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's gonna be hosting Florida State. All right. Here's the thing. I got a sweep coming. Yeah, I got a sweep coming. All right. Here's the thing. So Lonnie Alameda, all due respect for her, I think she has enough brilliance to be able to figure this thing out and maybe push it to 3, and then all bets are off at that point. Anything can happen. All right. But here's the thing. Oklahoma, as I said before, I just have that vibe that they're going to find themselves playing on championships, in the championship series rather, and that means they're going to have to get through Florida State to do it, right? Which is a rematch of a couple of World Series ago, right? But here's the thing, man. I think they figured it out. I think they get it done, and I feel like they get it done by way of sweep. So Again, with respect to Florida State, Oklahoma sweeps. The third one in Knoxville, the Knoxville Super Regional, they're going to be hosting the Alabama Crimson Tide. If you recall, earlier in the regular season, Tennessee took 2 out of 3 against Bama. Every single game was a shutout, actually, including the game that Bama won. They won Game 3, 1-0 against Tennessee. Both of these offenses, man, they can be dry sometimes, and that's why I feel like Tennessee's going to sweep this series, because I feel like they can throw Colin Pickens and then they can throw Peyton, and then that's it. Like they score a couple runs, and that's going to be the series. So I hope that's not the case. I hope it goes to a rubber match, and we'll see, what happens from there. But honestly, that's my inkling, and so I give Tennessee the nod on that front. They also advance to the Women's College World Series over Alabama. All right, then we've got down in Gainesville, the Super Regional there, that Baylor upset that happened in Louisiana Lafayette. Baylor's going to be coming over from Texas to see Florida, and bottom line, I think Florida sweeps Baylor. I really do. I think their offense is way too hot right now. Their energy is on an all-time high level, in my opinion, with that young group that they have in Gainesville, Florida, and I think they get it done. That's the bottom line. I think they get it done. All right. The next one is out in Stillwater, Oklahoma. They are going to be hosting Arizona originally. I thought they were going to be hosting Arkansas, which I would have made that series a little bit more competitive. But with all due respect to the pedigree of Arizona, I think Oklahoma State sweeps Arizona as well. I feel like Oklahoma State may very well be the most complete team of the hosts of this tournament. I would say of the host, okay, because there's another team that I feel like is a little bit more complete potentially. But again, Oklahoma State, they're there, and I think they get it done. All right. So thus far, the first 5, I don't think that there's an upset at all. I think the first 5 seeds get it done. All right. That leads me to my next point. UCLA out in Los Angeles hosting the Georgia Bulldogs. This is the first upset that I'm predicting. All right. And here's why. I think that Georgia is carrying that clutch gene this season. They've done it all year. They're winning in dramatic fashion often, and it's not like a lucky, 4-leaf clover in their back pockets where they just kind of keep playing with fire and they all of a sudden get lucky or whatever. I feel like they're having to, be in a dogfight, pun intended, right, to get things done, and they're doing it. And I feel like they're going to carry that magic out to Los Angeles, and I think that they're going to split games 1 and 2. Game 3 is going to come around, and they're going to figure out a way to do it in the end. So that's the first upset I'm predicting. UCLA proved me wrong. I'm here for it if you do, right? So the next one is going to be in Columbia, Missouri, not South Carolina. Columbia, Missouri, where Mizzou, again, they narrowly escaped Omaha, but now they're on to Duke, man. They're hosting the Duke Blue Devils, and here is another upset that I'm calling right now. I think Duke gets it done. And I'm saying upset because of the seeding, right? Georgia upsets UCLA number 11 over number 6. Duke over Mizzou would be a number 10 over number 7. But I feel like we're calling it an upset because of the rankings, but I don't think it's an upset because I think Duke's better anyway. I really do. And I don't know, like this, that's no disrespect to Mizzou, but I just think Duke's better. And because the super regional is in Columbia, that's why I say that this goes 3. If it was in Durham, I think Duke sweeps. I feel like the pitching staff is way too good, and I think they're going to score just enough to get it done. I don't think there's going to be blowouts. I just feel like Duke's just a little bit better than Mizzou right now, and for that reason, I got Duke pulling off the quote-unquote upset and winning in 3. All right, that leads me to the very last super regional. All right, Stanford out in Stanford, California, hosting the LSU Tigers, and I got LSU winning in 3 games. And some of you may be eye rolling as I say this because you're like, oh my gosh, you're an LSU fan. Of course you're going to pick your Tigers. No. If I didn't think they could win, I would say that, honestly. However, here's why. I feel like LSU has a 3-headed monster in the circle. All right, we got Raylan Chafin, we got Sydney Birdsong, and we got Kelly Lynch. All right, Stanford has one, and that's Kennedy. Right now, she could very well go 2 games by herself, no problem. Okay, on Friday and Sunday. However, I just think that in terms of a pitching staff, we're better right now. We're more whole than Stanford's staff is right now, and because both offenses can have proven to get hot at times, but also be very cold at times, the pitching staffs are going to be important, and I think the depth of LSU can help them get it done, get over the hump, and find their way back to the Women's College World Series, which I would love nothing more than that. So again, those are my super regionals picks, guys. Again, top 5 national seeds. I think they get in with virtually no problem. And then I feel like 6, 7, and 8, UCLA, Mizzou, and Stanford all get upset in game 3 there by Georgia, Duke, and LSU, respectively. So, again, I would love to know your opinions on this as well as we begin to post some of these clips on our Instagram stories and Facebook and TikTok and YouTube clips and everything in between, guys. I have been so pumped for this show. I hope that it has been a joy for you to listen to my lovely voice talk about the game of softball, this game that we all rally around and that we love and cherish so much. But let me give you my thought you should know moment before we go. All right. And here's my thought you should know moment. Now, it requires you to watch softball. Okay. That's number 1. And the moment is, I want you to pay attention to the details of this game, the energy, the effort. Okay, I want you to pay attention to the body language when they're down and when they're up. I want you to pay attention to the excitement between innings when they come off of defense and they come gather in that huddle after maybe allowing a few runs and it's been a tough inning, right? Are they coming off pouting and looking angry and mad or whatever all the time, or are they coming off locked in on and focused and they're excited and eager for an opportunity to get back at this team right away, right? They're not coming in there flat and woe is me, right? Like, pay attention to those details, man. The preparation, just all those types of intangibles is what I would encourage you to do. So I guess that's more of an encouragement than the thought. But anyway, my point is, pay attention to the details of the super regionals. These are the best 16 teams right now in the country. They've proven that through these regionals. So mad props to all of these ladies for getting it done, all of these coaching staffs. And guys, I'm excited to sit back, relax, and watch a lot of softball this weekend. I hope you'll join me on the couch or on your treadmill or wherever you watch softball. But it's going to be a great weekend, guys. We're going to catch up with you next Tuesday. I'm going to give you my breakdowns of all these super regionals. I'll also give you my picks to win the Women's College World Series as well. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to end this show like we always do. So please, let everything you do be done in love. Because at the end of the day, that is truly, truly what makes the world go round. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again, and we'll catch up with you.